I kid you not, during that time, I used to wish that I would get hit by a car. Not hard enough to take me to the great beyond, but just enough to put me in the hospital for a few days so I could sleep uninterrupted and someone would bring me pudding. I wouldn't even have to wash the pudding cup, and more would come later, and I wouldn't have to wash that cup either.
Hello and welcome to Priestess of Ordinary Things, a podcast for spiritual misfits, modern mystics, and folks of all genders tasked with tending the sacred within everyday life. My name is Kate Fontana. I'm a psychic, a pagan priestess with Christian vibes, and mentor to the spiritual fringe. I help spiritual misfits like you connect in down-to-earth ways to your innate resilient center, and to nurture reluctant leaders on their sacred priestess path. Welcome. Well, good morning. Hello.
Hi.
Hi. So good to be with you. Hello to future listeners and viewers. So I am here with a long time friend, Katie Halloran, and really excited to talk to you today, Katie, both as a friend and a fellow person being alive in the world right now, and then also as a writer and a scholar of maternal life.
I like that.
So one thing that had prompted my enthusiasm to talk with you has been your writing in your blog Mediocre Mom.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been such a sweet window into the full spectrum of life that comes through, this often overlooked role of being a mom, and just the pressures of being so many different things for all the people you're in charge of caring for, while also trying to be a human yourself.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm excited to hear from your wisdom today and the journey of that and how that's impacted your sense of self and spirituality and anything else that comes up. How would you like to introduce yourself? How would you like to locate yourself in the world, on the earth?
Yeah. Well, first of all, as a friend of Kate Fontana from when we were 2,
3 and 4,
something like that. Our families lived in Seattle together, and then when we moved out to Montana, they stayed in touch. So I have pictures of very young Kate visiting us in Butte. Wonderful memories of that.
You're my longest friends.
Yeah.
I don't know many people who have friends from the time they're 2, 3, and 4.
No. And then it's been a cool tap in, tap out, dip in, dip out, where I have many years without a Kate Fontana memory. And then we took a train trip to the coast with my sister, has been is a good friend of Kate's also. And then you visited us in Ireland, and I have memories on the train. So I have also followed your journey as a leader and a spiritual guide, and that's been inspiring. So I live in Missoula, and the Mediocre Mother is a monthly substack that came out of a desire to pick up a creative practice again. I have 3 boys. The oldest is almost 10 and the youngest is 4. And I was not able to tap into any sort of creative outlet for a very long time once I became a mother, and I realized that was something that I was missing. And the short story is I started these monthly columns mostly for younger siblings and friends who were having kids and wanting to offer something, and some don't make the same mistakes that I did. And one of the things that I felt was missing from my experience was just an honest conversation about what it's like to be a mother or a parent, and I wasn't prepared for how hard it was. And I got off social media once I became a stay-at-home parent because I knew that looking at how well other people were doing it, supposedly, would make a hard thing already harder. And so I just wanted to offer, I told myself, I remember at one point saying, if anyone asks me, I'm going to be honest. That's my promise to myself. And whether that resonates with them or not is fine. And maybe it's easy for some people, but it was hard for me. And I just, if one other person gets comfort out of knowing that, then
Mm.
great. Like I don't have an image I need to preserve. And
Mhm.
I want to offer that vulnerability. So that's where this started. Um, yeah.
And where has it gone, or where has it taken to you?
Yeah, that's
What's
a
come
good
of it?
question. So I started a year ago from January, so we're almost at a year and a half, and uh, it's grown into a readership of people I don't know. It started with this small group of friends, and I still don't have social media, so I'm not promoting it in any big way. I've sent it to friends who've sent it to friends who shared it with friends, and it's a private substack in the sense that you have to subscribe just because I don't feel comfortable just having it out there. It's anonymous because it talks about my family. And my husband reads all of them and he's fine with them. But a lot of it has to do with my kids. So their names aren't in there. There's no photos. Um, Obviously, the people that know me know that it's me, but I have quite a few people now that I are unknown to me. And
Mm.
I usually picture them as I'm writing.
Mhm. Dear
um,
stranger.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
But then also it's fun because I'll reference like a college friend and say, "Hi friend, like I know I know you're reading too." But it's grown from there. And then aside from that, I have grown in my commitment to myself to have a creative practice to
Mm.
write. I just felt like this part of my brain and spirit reactivated once I was writing again.
Mm.
Um,
Mhm.
and that felt essential. And I don't begrudge myself that I wasn't able to do it, or I'm not judging of myself. It would have been great had I been able to do that at times. It would have been nourishing, but Maslow's hierarchy of needs, I wasn't there. I was in survival for a really long time, and I'm not there anymore, and I am pretty determined not to go back there. But it's been this sort of coming back to life um, for that for a creative practice. Um,
Yeah.
and then I have since just tried to expand that, and I've taken a writing class and I've submitted some flash essays, and I got
Cool.
stuff like a small thing published, which felt like a really big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
It's a real big
yeah,
deal.
it is a big deal. And I think part of it was I felt like I really shrunk my world to survive being a mom in those early years and the world being really scary and feeling like I just had to really shrink. And then it's slowly been trying to expand again to a healthy place.
Hmm.
And writing has been a really big part of that expansion for
Hmm.
me.
It's interesting to hear you describe it that way because it, I mean, becoming a mother is cr inherently creation, creating.
Yes,
You
yes,
are creating.
yes,
But there was, from what I'm hearing you say, there's something in that version of creation that wasn't being fed, that wasn't feeding you. I mean, you were feeding it, them,
yes.
your creations, or I don't know. I mean, what's the difference to you in those versions of creation or
Yes.
creativity?
What a great question. Oh my gosh. And it's funny you asked this, Kate, because on Saturday I wrote a short essay for a group called Creative Parents, or Parents Who Are Creative. They asked if I wanted to do something right about parenting a child with ADHD. One of my kids has ADHD, but also tying it into being a parent who is creative, which felt
Mm-hmm.
like three disparate things. I'm going to try. Um, and so I sort of explored that. And you're right. One of the paragraphs says like creating a child is inherently creative, right?
Yeah.
Um, and part of where I landed was that became very consuming for me, and that was sort of the exclusive outpouring of my creativity. It was
Mm.
this child, which again, for a long time, that's all that that's not a bad thing. It just is what it is. You just have to keep, this baby depends on
Yeah.
you. So there's
Yeah.
that's fine.
Mhm.
um, but I was writing about and thinking about how sort of my choices and the way that I did it, I think I maybe over poured my creative desires and energy into my child and the life I was making for my child. And if I'm not out working in society and having this productive label and these achievements, that's fine as long as my creation is impressive. So if my life is
Mm.
not impressive, then I need to make sure the life that I've chosen, which is to be a stay at home mom and raise these kids, like then I better have some really freaking impressive children
Yeah.
to validate my worth. So that was the plan.
Mm-hmm. Uh-huh. Good plan.
Good plan. Good plan.
I will
And
raise little Einsteins. Yes.
exactly, just some doctors and
Yeah.
lawyers, and they can fix climate change. No big deal.
Uh-huh.
It was fine. They were going to speak Spanish too, bilingual. Big plans for them. But then having a child who's neurodiverse, especially your first one, uh, he was like, well, screw that.
Yeah. I don't give a fuck about your plans.
100%. And if you want me to look like everybody else and be the best version of a productive capitalist child, like, sorry, that's not going to happen. And thank God, right? I'm glad it was my first one. But to try to get back to where we started, I think part of my journey was realizing that if my worth is coming from these creations, that's taking away from them getting to be their own person, and also it's putting all of it's putting too much on them. And so part of with writing and sticking to that is saying I need to have creative outlets that are not my
Mm.
children or
Mm-hmm.
my home or something, like
Mm-hmm.
for me. And that might, that's going to look different for other people, but once I was out of survival, I just have, I just tried to, I continue to try to separate those a little bit more. So um, I'm working again. So I'm like, I do work to make money and I do work to take care of my family. And then writing feels like a third thing where it's like, it's just for me or it's just for readers, or it's funny that it's like, well, it's still about my kids mostly,
Yeah.
but that's okay because it's something, they come up and I say, I'm writing, I'm not available. Like
Mm.
this is something that I do. And now I feel that that's important to model as well.
Mm.
Um,
That you get to have that.
that I get to have that. Yeah, and they
Mhm.
know about it and they're cute. They'll ask if I have a new subscriber or ice cream when I got like a something published, and so it's just I've as they grow older, I think this is natural and this is one of the ways I've done it, but just part of that coaxing them out of the egocentricity is like, oh, I actually have a life that is
Not just
doesn't
you.
involve you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's okay. I still
Mm.
love you, but I do things that are just for me.
Mm-hmm. Mm. Maybe we can talk about your writing itself. Like
Mm-hmm.
you your title is Mediocre Mother. Is
Yeah.
that right? Yeah,
Yes.
right. Yeah. Mediocre mother. So why, and you started to talk about this a bit before, like you promised yourself that you were going to be honest about what motherhood was like for you.
Yeah.
Um, so why, yeah, what does that look like in your writing? Why that, like,
Hmm.
and you said even though this is its third thing, it's still like it's in the fertile ground, part of
Hmm.
the fertile ground of parenthood and motherhood, that this is one additional fruit from that, like you're drawing from that. So like, what do you write about?
Yeah, that's a great question. Um, well, I write about whatever people ask. So that is freeing because I think I don't ever want to be someone who's like telling other people how to live their lives or be a parent. Like that's a treacherous ground. So I respond to reader questions and then I sort of have this like Dear Abby, Miss Manners vibe where I
Yeah.
feel like I can just say whatever and it's like you asked and take it or
Yeah,
leave it. But I
right.
don't have to, I feel like I don't have to couch everything. Like, I'm going to tell you this story and what I learned from it. And if you want to do it, great. And if you don't, that's fine. And it works for my family. It doesn't. I'm like, you know what? Someone asked me this. I'm just going to answer it.
Yeah.
And people are smart enough to know, like, yeah, if this doesn't apply, then it doesn't, whatever, it doesn't apply. So I write about whatever people send me, which has been quite diverse. We've had my husband's on his phone too much. We've had my family is too involved. That's family obligations, is what I titled that one. We have are we supposed to have maternal instincts?
Mm.
I always feel guilty as a mom. How do you do holidays? Uh,
And these are like real questions people
Real
have
questions.
submitted.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And some people do like a full letter and they're all anonymous as well, or just a prompt. So I had a prompt about one of my favorites is called Bodies and Blood. And I just
Mm.
did short answers to a bunch of stuff about the physical um, life. And so one of them was like, why do boys like saying butts so much? Um, to like, I
Why
know
do they?
you got to go read it, Kate. I mean, the short answer is I don't know, but mine do too. So don't worry about it. My kindergartner drew a penis on his chalk outline of his friend at school. Like
Uh-huh.
I'm like, that's the real stuff.
Yeah.
And that one also talks about periods a lot. It was like, I know how to get pregnant, but like, what about my period? So there was a lot about that. And that one was just fun. It was like,
Mhm.
let's just get into it. So, being attracted to other people in a committed relationship. That one's Wandering
Mhm.
Eyes and the Sex Life of Salmon.
Mm.
Oh, because it was also about how do parents have a sex life. It's fun, juicy
Yes.
stuff.
What a spectrum. Yeah. Way to
Yeah,
get into it.
yeah, yeah. And then the mediocre mother comes from just sort of the story I shared of having all these big plans and then they were just beaten out of me and
Mm.
well, maybe I could read the little section of sort of where it sums it up
Yeah.
in the
Let's hear it.
introduction.
Yeah.
If I, okay, my technological stinkiness. If I just minimize this so I can see my screen, we're good, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Um, Here we go. Yeah, I mean, it's like two long paragraphs. Is that good?
Yeah. Perfect.
Okay, so this is from the intro. And I kind of give a list of ideas of things you could ask me about. Child rears, rear facing children, child rearing, weird children, colonoscopy prep, potty training boys, poorly, peeing your pants for mothers or children, book recommendations on child rearing, et cetera, et cetera. And then I just want to list my qualifications, which are okay, actually, maybe I'm not qualified. I have a 200-hour yoga teacher license that's expired, a teaching toddlers and childcare certificate from before I had my own kids, a CrossFit level 1 coaching certificate, probably never going to use that one, an old wilderness first aid certificate, and a license to perform marriages in the state of Utah. So
So qualified.
aside from those qualifications and topic ideas, what else might inspire you to seek advice from me? Hopefully that list triggers some ideas. I also love talking about the inner seasons of the menstrual cycle, not my original idea, and the therapeutic benefits of vacuuming, my original idea. I could wax poetic about the freedom of leaving social media for good, the mental benefits of heaving heavy weights around, the very desperate struggle that parenting can be, the loneliness of motherhood, the liberating gift I gave myself and would love to give you too of mediocrity.
Mm.
And by no means do I say this in a self-deprecating, I hope you contradict me. No, you are so amazing, sneaky way. I mean it as a challenge to our own inner critics and the outer expectations we feel or create as mothers, as women, as humans. I mean it as a way of befriending your most tender self, the tired and frightened self who is terrified that you will fail your kids, that you will look inadequate, that you will eventually drop all the balls if you don't keep on juggling with all your waning might. I mean it as sort of a yogic middle way where you can rest in the effort. The effort is endless. Mothers carry the burden of responding to the ceaseless needs of their young ones and somehow expect themselves to continue to meet that ceaseless need and lose weight and bring in a paycheck while doing it. I used to feel that I needed to have amazing children, that they were a projection of having my shit together or not. And I used to really care about that. It's normal. They beat that out of me thoroughly. This mediocre mother stuff is, alas, not a product of a morning meditation practice. It is a product of suffering, of exhaustion, of my kids being 1,000 times more their own people than a reflection of me.
Mm.
It is from learning the hard way, from thinking for so long that there was either something wrong with me or something wrong with my oldest child because we couldn't function together. Though I had taught preschool, though I had read all the books, though I was a person who thought they should be able to have a child who could listen to and follow the instructions of his mother. It comes from sitting with that, wrestling with that, letting go all the way of asking him to perform how I wanted him to,
Mm.
and trying to meet him where he was, on his own wavelength, with a brain wired differently than mine and most kids his age. And trying to do all that letting go and learning on the fly, in the middle of the most intense exhaustion of having a second child, a grumpy baby who wouldn't sleep, and me being too tired or stubborn or foggy-headed to get myself some help, or even know what help I needed. I kid you not, during that time, I used to wish that I would get hit by a car. Not hard enough to take me to the great beyond, but just enough to put me in the hospital for a few days so I could sleep uninterrupted and someone would bring me pudding. I wouldn't even have to wash the pudding cup, and more would come later, and I wouldn't have to wash that cup either.
So
even
real.
even prison sounded appealing. Clearly, I was unwell. Give your children the gift of being normal. I read that somewhere, and it has stuck so completely that I eventually extended it to myself. I gave up, I gave in, I settled. I am the mediocre mother, and I rest in that. I don't have to be anything but very normal, which means that sometimes I will feel great about my relationship with my kids or my husband, and sometimes I won't. I will yell at them, and I will apologize. I will strive with a very light touch to be present and real, and I will retreat and recharge when I feel that in fact the person with ceaseless needs can sometimes be me. That is easier now as the kids get older, but I do hope that any hard-earned advice and perspective that I have may be shared. Send me your questions and thoughts, and I'd love to respond with whatever mediocre mother wisdom I may have to share.
Mm.
Thanks.
Yeah. What does it feel like to read that? I mean, I know you wrote it and you've lived it. Like, does it still, what does it feel like to read it?
Yeah. It feels it feels good. Like I have taken ownership of it. I have
Mhm.
taken what was hard and I have changed the narrative in some ways to like you said, create a fertile ground.
Mm,
Um, the farther away I get from those really, really hard years, the less sort of emotional charge it has.
mm-hmm,
Sometimes it's hard for my husband to read that.
mm-hmm.
He was not well at that time either. And he's like, whenever I read your essays, I'm like, where was her husband? I'm like, you were at work.
Yeah, yeah.
But I just felt sad for her for a long time of
Mm-hmm.
just this younger version of myself who wanted to do everything right from a really good place. And she was just tired. She was so tired.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so that's, again, a lot of what's motivating. And everyone will have their own experience, and not everybody, I don't think everybody, I mean, everyone's going to have their own experience. That's all I can say. But um, yeah, I
Yeah.
just, this has become something I want to offer. And whether
Mm-hmm.
it lands or not, or resonates or not, is like, all I can do is say, like, this was true for me. This was
Mm-hmm.
really true and real for me. And I survived and I grew, and I'm really thankful to be where I am with the perspective that I have. It makes family life really enjoyable because I'm not trying to,
Force it to be something.
yeah, force it to be something. Yeah. Yeah, I'm not comparing I mean, of course it comes up, but I think I've just let go of so much that I just enjoy my family life a lot more. And it's still
Yeah.
hard.
Yeah. What a miracle.
Yeah.
I mean, I not being a parent, um, I can still feel the truth of everything you just shared, everything you have shared. I have absolutely heard from other moms specifically, like, yes, just hit me with a car, take me somewhere to be
Yep.
taken care of. Like,
Totally.
that sounded so real.
Yep.
Or like, may I be stricken with some, or actually, I do remember someone, a mom here being like, I got COVID and I had to quarantine myself, and it was the
Yes.
best.
100%. Yes.
um, yeah, so I just, yeah, can feel the realness, the truth of what you're sharing, um, and I know we'll connect with a lot of my peers, and particularly folks who are parents or moms.
Yeah. Yeah. And I have to wonder, Kate, oh, sorry, where you can finish your thought. Go ahead.
Well, well, just the only thing I was going to say was like, one thing I'm appreciating is how there is a piece about like sharing sharing the story as a way to like, maybe it can shine light on one person's path or whatever. But I'm also hearing it in terms of like, you just need to do this for you. Like, this is a part of
100%.
like restoring selfhood for
Yeah.
you, and like a sense of sovereignty for you. And I do find that with a lot of folks who maybe parenting isn't their devotional path or whatever, but whatever
Right.
the path is, you kind of have to come to a place of it's the act of creativity, like that the
Yes.
creation doesn't belong to you, but
Mm,
is the but but the momentum to create, like, you kind of have to come to a place of peace, of being a servant to the creative spirit, that
yes.
somehow that you, there's some part of you that can't not do,
Hmm.
or that needs to do the creating in order to like be whole in some way,
Yeah.
and the outcome of that is out of your hands, like, someone
Yes.
might like this or not, I don't know, like,
Totally.
um so that's just a distinction I was hearing
Absolutely.
you describe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very much so. Yeah. It makes me think of two different lines. the title of the Flannery O'Connor story, which doesn't have anything to do with, but the title of The Life You Save May Be Your Own, right? It's like,
Mm-hmm.
I like the idea that writing these is helping someone else or whatever, but as you said, it's like really, it's mostly for me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then there's also something I had read about, like, you have to claim the events of your life to make them your own. So as you were talking about, whether or not you're a parent, part of maturity or aging or survival or whatever is you have to sort of figure out what the story of your life is and how you
Mm-hmm.
shape it and things that have happened, and it is a way to claim sovereignty or agency of like, I'm going to claim these events, but I'm going to try to do it in a way that is fulfilling creativity or allows me to move on or whatever it is. And I have found that through writing. I think there's lots of ways to do that, but it has felt like a healing process. And that has been one of the things. There's been lots of other things, but that has been one of the tools for me that has felt like, it's felt like a healing journey.
Yeah.
And that's been a big part of it for me. And then now, as I feel like I'm in this place of wellness, I I now see it as, but to maintain that, I need to be continuing to be creative or write. For me, that's
Mm-hmm.
writing.
Yeah, you
Um,
gotta take your medicine.
yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Do you experience that, or like, this is just to tie into like a theme that's common in the podcast and what a
Yeah.
lot of listeners come with, like, does it relate to your sense of having a spiritual life or spirituality, or
Yeah.
how has that presented itself to you?
Yeah. Um, it does. It really does, because I at this point am exploring and experiencing spirituality outside of like community in a lot of ways, or without a guide. Um, it is because, like you said, there's sort of this creative urge, and I do try to think of it as like, I am open to sharing what someone needs to hear or what the world needs to hear. And that feels bigger than me. I don't feel like,
Mm,
oh, I have all these answers, then you just need to do what I say. I sort of, when I'm really in the flow or feel like really happy with something that I came up with, it does feel more like I'm a vessel or a channel for something else. And I'm like,
mm,
well, that was cooler than I could have come up with. But
mhm.
I sat down or I got up early enough to get my butt on the couch and some coffee and just put in the work. Um, and so it does feel like a spiritual practice in this sort of, you know, if I think of where do you feel connected to something bigger than yourself,
Mhm,
this
mhm.
is one of the places.
Yeah.
And how does it move me toward compassion? How does it move me toward connection? How does it move me toward understanding? Um, that's definitely part of it.
Yeah. I'm hearing it too in terms of how, what you were saying before about, like, as part of a healing journey, how it offers a framing or a containment or a re-narrating of like the full spectrum of life that you've
Yeah,
experienced. And,
for
when
sure.
I think of any of our sort of mythic,
Mm,
religious, spiritual stories, outside of the, whatever historical pieces we may want to debate
sure.
about, whatever, like
Like,
the archetypes of our traditions are really about like those deep questions of why do we suffer? Why did this happen? Like,
yeah,
who am I?
yeah,
And I really do hear you wrestling with those questions in the microcosm of
Yes.
being a mother in
Yes.
2025. Yeah.
Very much so. And then it's interesting you say that, Kate, because it's also, I think, because we're all trying to figure that on our own, some of the questions that are harder for me to answer because I don't know are the like, how do I raise my kids to be a good kid? Can I, one question I've gotten that I haven't written on because I just don't know is the like, can I take the good of my religious upbringing, share it with my kids, but without all the other stuff that I don't want?
Mm,
Or how do I talk to my kids about climate change and the collapse
mm,
of the world as we know it? And those ones are really hard because I'm like, well, I don't know because I don't know how to do it with my kids, and I'm asking that as well. And there I'm just honest.
mhm,
The one about climate change specifically, I asked my sister-in-law and my sister to respond because I did the intro and I said I bury my head in the sand a lot just so
mhm,
I can keep going. I don't know. So
mhm,
I asked them to do a guest post of because they are engaged in a more direct ways than I am, and they had some beautiful things to share. But
mm.
um,
But
yeah,
even that seems like embracing your mediocre mom. I can't answer
100%.
this question.
No, and it's just not a
Yeah.
strength. It's not a strength.
Yeah.
Um, but I'm like, but that it's what allows me to function.
Hmm. Hmm.
So that comes up a lot as well, is that like a regulated parent is what is best for kids. And that part
Hmm.
of your part of the, yes, mediocre mother and the humility is being like, so what do I need to do to be regulated? And I need, so then I need to do it. Like
Hmm.
you
Hmm.
can't, that's what I'm writing about right now. I had a super great question, hopefully coming out on Father's Day, about masculinity and raising good boys. And it's from a dad who's worried about raising his boys. And I have just chewed and chewed and chewed on it. And one of the things that I've come to, well, one short answer that I see the healthy masculinity could be a healthy femininity. It's just maturity,
Hmm. Hmm.
um, not acting like a seventh grader when you're not. And that it takes time, but really what I'm honing in on now, and this sort of, I think, ties a little bit, is that it is doing what is required of you to be able to do what is required of you.
Yeah. Oh, that's yeah.
Yeah, and that is not the that that stuff is not sexy and it's not necessarily fun. And I think for women generally, it's, when I'm writing for mothers, I'm a lot of it is about self-care, whatever that means. And I think your work goes way deeper into like really truly how do you care for the self on deeper levels. But I think for what I see in my husband's journey in this masculinity is he's not getting this message of self care, but if he's going to show up as a principal, as a husband, as a father, he's learned I need enough sleep and I need to exercise and I need to not drink. And it's like that stuff is super boring.
Yeah.
And it's actually self discipline.
Yeah.
And I have been very compelled by that. And so for me, the doing what is required to do what is required. I need to show up for my job. I need to show up for my parent or as a parent, try and show up as a friend. And my journey of maturity is also accepting that, knowing that, and then just getting those things for myself. So it's not self negation where you're like, I'm the martyr and I'm taking care of my kids and I teach and I do all of this and I farm with underserved. Like, it's not that. And it's not self indulgence where it's like, and I'm gone all weekend golfing.
Yeah.
It's just this like self discipline that you are doing what you know you need to do to show up for the people that you have agreed to be in relationship with and
Yeah.
what those obligations are.
I'm hearing in that too. It's like it's not the sexy work and it's no one else's job. And that's
100%,
that's
Kate.
what
And
I'm
that's
hearing you
super
say about
key.
the
That is
discipline
super
or
key.
the real ownership of like I remember kind of having this light bulb again, different in a different context, but just that
Yeah.
like, oh, no one else is gonna like take care of my energy and time.
No,
No
they're
one
going to
else
ask for it.
exactly.
Yeah.
If you're good at something, like you're a good mom, you're a good partner, you're a good whatever, you will only be asked to do more of it.
Yes.
And it is no one else's job. Like if you're and this isn't to put more blame on moms at all, because there's culture and all the things
Yeah,
that
of
are set
course.
up to make
Of course.
moms fail. But like again, with acknowledging the reality of all the systems that are that we live in that are set up to make particularly moms fail, like it does come down to you and your choices and like what you're
Hmm.
gonna own
Hmm.
as like your the yeah however you said it, like the thing you need to do to be able to do the things you need to do.
Yes.
And that kind of like radical responsibility is hard, I think, and really is like a maturing that is hard.
That's what I think the difference is it's like, before I had kids or in your 20s or whatever, you're like, oh, I stayed up too late and I'm going to kind of suck at my job the next day, but like, whatever,
Uh-huh.
it was a party, or like, I canceled because of this, or, you know, it, it's someone else's fault that something happened or whatever. And I think you can come to it many different ways, but for me, it was through kids where I was like, I feel like the demands being made upon me are equivalent to an elite athlete running a marathon every day.
Yes.
And so if I have a glass of wine, and this is just me, I can't function the next day.
Mm-hmm.
I just can't. And so I just am like, at a certain point, if I continue to do that, and that's again systems and addiction, like this is an example specifically for me because whatever, my body doesn't like wine. So I just was like, I just can't do that unless I have the whole day off the next day.
Mm-hmm.
Or
Mm-hmm.
I have to have 9 hours of sleep to function. I just do. And so instead of feeling bad about that or feeling selfish or denying myself that, I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
so when you're a mature person, you know what those things are. And you most of the time get them for yourself. Or I'm like, I
Mm-hmm.
need to exercise or I will be crabby. Like that's all that there is to it. And so finding that for me, I'm in a partnership, so we have to navigate getting that for each other, and especially again out of survival mode of like we are in this marathon for a very long time, and then everything we're doing is modeling for our kids, and so we say I'm going to CrossFit for an hour, and they're like, okay, and sometimes you have to sit and watch TV for an hour while we do that in the gym, or I need to do my
Your
writing.
kids watch TV?
They do. They even have a Nintendo Switch, Kate. Switch.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Radical.
Yeah, but and I've learned a lot from my husband from this of just because his version of discipline is like a little more intense than mine, but he needs that. He's like, this is what I have to do. And for us to be able to own, learn, and communicate, as you said, only you, this is what I need. It doesn't matter if it looks weird to someone else. And I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
say the words that mean the words, which is I
Mm-hmm.
need this and this is whatever. Um, and getting there has taken a really, really, really long time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Do you want to close with your other excerpt?
Sure, if does that sound good to you?
Yeah. Yeah. Let's close with some words from the Mediocre Mother.
It's probably about the same length. Is that all right?
Sure. Perfect.
Well, okay. I need my reading glasses for this one. Okay. So the prompts for this one, I'm just going to scroll to the top, was how women are supposed to know how to take care of kids automatically or with our supposed maternal instincts.
Mm-hmm.
So I go through a lot of things, but here's the conclusion. Last query. What happens when our own survival instincts conflict with our maternal ones? The will to survive is our first instinct, isn't it? Later comes the drive to procreate and keep our offspring alive. But that first one is still there, right? It doesn't go away. We blame ourselves for not being maternal enough instead of acknowledging that we have a primal instinct for survival that we are required to override for a time to keep our babies alive. But what about when it refuses to be overridden anymore? We can't blame the hungry wolf inside of us for wanting to survive, even if it has adorable puppies now. Sometimes the pups win out. Sometimes they don't. Babies are shaken. Fathers leave. Mothers leave. There have been many times I have wanted to run away from home. There are other more subtle temptations of escape, a drink, an affair, hiding in work, or a cause, or the internet. I think there is genuine self-preservation at work here, a valid instinct. All over town right now, there is a missing person flyer with a beautiful mama who can't be found. The children's little faces are blurred out, and there is a message that she left in the dark without a coat and is likely in crisis. It haunts me. I ache for the kids, but I ache for the mother too. I have learned to pass very quiet judgment on these specters since becoming a mother myself. It isn't so far-fetched to place myself there. I have had those scary moments when things could have gone either way, when there was a crying baby who wouldn't stop, when my wolf was howling to be tended to over the incessant wail of the pups. I remember a moment from one of my hardest days as a mother before seeking out needed help for myself, when the kids were fighting in the basement and my nervous system hit overload. I lost it. I kicked a kitchen cupboard and screamed at my husband. I hate them. I hate them.
Mm-hmm.
And I meant it. There was genuine desperation. My husband was scared. I scared myself. What mother says that about her kids? I did. Of course, I love my kids more than anything. But while that was unequivocally true, I was crying out to survive. Did I really hate them? I knew I hated the person I had become in their wake and the relentless demands she had to respond to. I hated the noise and mess and the needs that went on forever. I hated not having my own time and space and a clean room. I hated the lack of control, the overwhelming anxiety, the paralyzing worry, the wrinkles on my forehead, the gnawing fear that they wouldn't turn out all right and it would be my fault. I hated how when they finally slept, I would wake up and my mind would conjure up the many threats to them and the world they were inheriting. I hated the way even a school couldn't promise to keep them safe. I hated the trucks flying down my street with a driver texting at the wheel. I felt like I hated everything. But what is under hate? Anger, perhaps. And under the anger, helplessness, fear, grief. I actually hated how my heart couldn't be protected anymore, how it had been cut into 3 pieces and thrown out, and no one could promise me that those pieces would always return. That wasn't really hate. It was deep and real fear. It was also grief over the loss of being my own person with a heart in one piece that I could guard. And I hated myself, a useful hate covering the deep fear that it wasn't an outside threat that would hurt them most, but the very person who was meant to protect them. My survival instincts were telling me to get out, to run, that something was wrong and I couldn't take it anymore. But really, what I needed was help. And the deep, deep love for my kids told me that even if I wasn't sure there was help to be had, they deserved a safe and predictable mother, and I needed to at least try. Wasn't that my maternal instinct showing up when I needed it most? pointing me true north. It just took time to recognize it, hidden and disguised as it was in the pain of what I was calling failure.
Hmm. Thank you.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. That's the honesty piece, you know? It's
Mm-hmm.
not pretty, but it's real.
It's real.
Yeah. The love and the struggle. It's both real. It's all real.
Mhm. Yeah. I feel like that's enough said.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's leave that there. Katie, thank you so much for this
Yeah.
time and for your honesty and willingness to, take us into the Shadowlands.
Mm.
I mean, into your own Shadowland that like
Yeah.
really, I think allows others to welcome or
Mm-hmm.
be in acceptance, be in honesty
Mm-hmm.
about their own and our own.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can people follow your blog or
Yeah.
Mhm.
Please. Yes, I would love that. Um,
I can put a link in the show
yeah,
notes.
yeah, that would be
Mhm.
great. Yeah, I'll send you it's yeah, the Substack. And like I said, it's private, so you just have to request to subscribe. And
Mhm.
I do once a month, they're long essays, and I welcome questions, prompts, letters, and once you subscribe, you'll be able to see the archives. So I think there's like 16 posts or something. Um, and then in the spirit of busy humans, I record them now. So you can either read them, it'll probably take like, they're like about 20 minutes to read, or it's a very unpolished. I literally hit record. But
That's great.
yeah. And again, they're usually, 18 to 21 minutes of listening. So I have friends that do it on their commute or while they're folding laundry or whatever. So
Yeah.
yeah, that would be great.
Awesome. Great. I will definitely share that in the show notes.
Wonderful. Thank you, Kate. Thank you for your work.
Yeah. Thanks, Katie. Love you so much. And
Yeah, love you too. And
this
keep
was
up the
really
great
fun.
work. Yeah,
Thank you.
thank
You
you.
too.
Bye.
You've been listening to Priestess of Ordinary Things, a podcast for spiritual misfits, modern mystics, and folks of all genders tasked with tending the sacred in everyday life. If you're a spiritual misfit who feels lost, stuck, or hungry for connection and wanting more resources for being more grounded in your relationship to your body and to the earth, go to my website at www.katefontana.com/earth-magic and get the free gift I created just for you. It's called Earth Magic, 3 simple celebrations of spiritual nourishment. Also, make sure to subscribe to this podcast so you don't miss an episode. And if there's something you heard here that was meaningful to you, please let me know in the comments. I read all of them, and it really helps me know that I'm speaking to real people and not just out into empty space. Lastly, if there's someone in your life you think could benefit from what you heard here, I'd be so grateful if you'd share it with them. You belong here. Don't give up. May we dance through these times, awake and together.